Okay, hello. The music went out. It's been doing that. Actually, I do think I know what it's doing. But Stephanie told me, she was like, the music went out again. I was like, well, let's begin. That's a good time. It's a good time to begin.
Recording in progress.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Recording in progress. Got it, Zoom. Thank you. Thanks, Kate. So, good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday night. I love a Tuesday night. I love a Monday morning. I like Quilt Nerd. That's what I like. It's been a busy day today. We had a meeting all together, the whole bakery. And then I talked to Robin, aka Biscuit, our little biscuit, about some subscription stuff and perks and all kinds of things that we do here at Quilt Nerd. Quilt Nerd has been around for a year and a month, a little bit, yeah, a year and a month and some days. And I was working on the first newsletter, because that's happening soon. And I was thinking about how, when we started, how many viewers there were? 0. You know how many quilt people I knew who had Twitch? -5. 0 subscribers, didn't even qualify for a subscription affiliate status on Twitch, And so over time, things have really changed. And so, so Biscuit's on board to help make sure the subscription thing is working and that people who support the show feel supported back, So it was a busy day with meetings and all kinds of things, and that was really good. I love Tuesday, and I love the peeps that I get to work with and the people that I get to broadcast to. It's a parasocial community, the Quilt Nerd community, but in 2022, that is a completely legitimate relationship to have. Things can get weird, because a lot of people are anonymous on the internet. On the internet, everyone's a dog, or anyone can be a dog. I forget what that adage is, but it's true. But anyway, but we, this is a fairly self-selecting group of people. If you're really wanting to troll, you can find many other live streams that are looser, have less of an angle, less of specific content to go and troll. So for the most part, we have a really, it's pretty good. It's pretty good around here. We know each other as well as we can, I think, on a platform like this. So so tonight we're going to talk about art. We're going to get to Robert Rauschenberg. We're going to do that last time. Didn't get to it on Saturday night. And we had our first watch party, by the way, on Sunday. That was super fun. It was really fun. We'll do it again. And then I'm going to talk about silk tonight. That's right, silk. Let's hear it for silk. Silk, man. She's been around for a while. So I wanted to look at silk quilts. A lot of times I have all kinds of, I have ideas for the show all the time. Lots of folders, lots of things in the cloud, ready to go. But then, I don't know, it just sort of came to me. I was like, silk. Let's talk about silk. So we're going to talk about silk. But I have 2 things to say before we get into that. The first one is I want to apologize to you all. Because on Saturday night, we looked at this quilt called The Sun Sets on Sunbonnet Sue. And I heard from one person who I adore, who just was like, oh, it's great to see that quilt. I love that quilt. It's hilarious, And this person is like, A-okay, Loved the quilt, thought it was quite funny, which is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be ironic, the sun sets on Sunbonnet Sue, all these different ways that Sunbonnet Sue, this classic traditional quilt character, meets her end, her grisly end. It was made in 1979. It's legendary in the Quilt Nerd system. And I thought I liked it too. And I am like the anti-quilt police. I'm like the quilt police. Can we just all be the quilt police? So I'm just like, whatever. I like all quilts pretty much, even if I don't like them, I like them. But it was weird because I hadn't seen that quilt in a while. Now, I'll just cut to the chase, because the other thing I want to say is the meat of the thing. But when we looked at the quilt, there was some disturbing stuff in that quilt. And I'm not saying they never should have done it. I don't apologize for that, and I won't ever tell somebody that they shouldn't have done something in a quilt, or they shouldn't have how dare you, whatever. No. But, there was a couple like self-harmy blocks in that quilt that if I, this show, I say it all the time, it's important. It's not a presentation, it's an exploration. I'm learning along with you. It's not that I see things for the very first time live. I mean, well, sometimes, yeah. If I'm watching a video with you, I've never seen it. Actually, that's really fun when that happens, because I'm like, oh my God, right along with you. And sensitive content doesn't come up too much in this world. It doesn't. I mean, trigger warnings get kind of a bad rap because I think sometimes it's, I don't know, whatever. But a content warning on that quilt would have been good. And I'm not like, I'm so sorry, because but I just want to acknowledge that, like, a couple of those blocks were really intense for people, and they kind of were for me too. I mean, when you have somebody doing self-harm, like, whoa, like, where'd that come from, So I just wanted to let you know, like, I really care about you, parasocial as it may be, and I was surprised at my reaction. I was like, I don't like that at all. So what I did was that's not on YouTube, that episode, until I can, like, the to-do list is real. So I took that episode off YouTube until I have a chance to edit out that little bit, because I want to. And then on the Twitch VOD, the video on demand, I put a content warning on there. So yeah. So I wanted to tell you that, and make the quilts you want to make, laugh at the things you want to laugh at. I will do the same. And on the show, I just don't know how to tell you I'll do better next time, because that's not going to come up a lot, I don't think. Anyway, that's all. Thanks to everybody. And thanks to the people who reached out and were like super like chill, like, maybe a content warning, or like maybe the couple people who did that were awesome, and I appreciate you a lot. Okay, so here's what I want to tell you tonight, aside from that. So next week, next week is American Quilt Study Group's seminar. And it's like, the American Quilt Study Group is the OG quilt nerds. 1980, Sally Garut formed the American Quilt Study Group. And it's been going ever since. And they write papers and they have seminars, and it's all very serious and it's exciting. And I went once years ago before I was ready to be there. I wanted to make quilts. I did not care about history. Look at me now, Mom. Look at me now. But I just was like, ugh. It was in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. My mom took me to it. She thought it would be interesting for me. It was not. Sorry, I have no shame about that. I was like, I don't know, I could look. I was like 34 and single and quilting, and I just didn't care about that history stuff. I wanted to buy fabric and make quilts. And so I wasn't. But today, I'm really excited. And not only am I going to go to seminar to hear these papers and talk to people and mix with the quilt nerds, I'm going to present, I'm going to present this presentation. And Molly and I are going to do a quilt nerd who I met through this show. We're going to present what I think is going to be, Molly and I are like, are we geniuses? Like, are we really? She had a dream about our presentation last night. She's like, everybody loved it. So, knock on wood, we're going to do this poster presentation, and I'm going to do a study center, which is 2 hours where I present a thing, and then there's questions and answers and things. I'm very nervous about it, because these people are like, I don't know, that's what I picture them as. They're probably not that way, but I picture them like, looking at my footnotes. My presentation is on quilts in fine art. The quilt behind me tonight, we'll look at the full thing in just a minute, is by Michael James. And so I have all kinds of things. Probably the next time we meet, I'll tell you a little bit more about what I was reading about Michael James, the quilt maker, very famous quilt maker, art quilter. I was reading a lot about his relationship to art quilts and things. But so I'm putting this. I mean, I'm brushing up or changing, whatever, adapting my lecture called "Sold: The Complicated Presence of Quilts in Fine Art from 1900 to Today." Sounds boring, super sexy. It's great. And so I was reading this article, and Michael James, the person who made the quilt that's behind me, It had a very controversial thing that he said long ago. He says many controversial things. He has said them in the past. And so I'm thinking about quilts and art. And so there's lots of things I want to tell you about it. But tonight I want to just share this very good advice that I got years ago from a writer, actually, not a quilt person. So let me condense this. Okay. So let's see, 10 years ago, my one-woman show was accepted into the primetime season of the Neo-Futurist Theater here in Chicago, whatever. And I was writing this show, and I applied to go to La Mama Theater in New York City. La Mama Theater, very famous place. They did a playwrights workshop in Umbria, Italy. And you could apply, and you could, if you were accepted, you could go and work on your play in Italy, in Umbria, with La Mama Theater. I was like, oh. And even better than that, they would have a superstar playwright or theater luminary who would lead that 10 days in Umbria. And I got in, and I got a little bit of a grant. And the person who led that workshop that year was Lynn Nottage. Lynn Nottage, Google her. You know, I don't like you to read ahead, but you should. You should Google Lynn Nottage. She's won the Pulitzer Prize since I spent time with her in Umbria. Me and Lynn, you know, whatever. She was so cool. And so one day during the workshop that she led, she had us get out a piece of paper. That happened most days, but she had us get out a piece of paper, and she was like, okay, we're going to do something today. And there were like, I don't know, 20 of us or something. It's thundering and raining outside. It's great. She had us get out a piece of paper, and she said, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions, and you write down your answers. And she said, write down your 5 favorite novelists. And we were like, okay, write down 5. And then she said, write down your 5 favorite nonfiction writers. Write your 5 favorite poets. Okay, she's giving us time to do all this. Your 5 favorite composers. Okay, you know. Your 5 favorite essayists. And so she's going through these. Your 5 favorite painters. Your 5 favorite sculptors, you know. And so she's doing this, and what happened was, and she had done this before, okay, this exercise, she knew what was going to happen, and what she thought would happen did happen, which was that it was really hard to come up with 5 for every category. And I was like, oh my God, poetry was easy for me, nonfiction was fine, but like sculptors, like, do I have 5 favorites, you know, favorites, whatever, you know, if you live long enough, favorites are kind of silly, because you just, you know all kinds of things that you like. You pick your 5 favorite movies, it's like, ugh, well, what genre, you know? But 5 sculptors, like, I didn't even know if I could really come up with 5 favorite sculptors like Michelangelo, but he's not a favorite sculptor. The point that she was making, and she shared this with us at the end of that exercise, is that as a creator, as a writer or a quilt maker or a painter, you know, any kind of creative person, you ought to have 5. You ought to have 5 of these things, because your job is, and she wasn't chastising us, but she's like, find them, find 5, because your job as a creator is to observe the world and then help others translate that for others to perhaps find a way in, you know, to what you perceive, and the personal is the universal. So, you know, be always looking, you know, absorbing things and remembering them. And you ought to have 5 sculptors that you know, that you like, even if you're not like a huge sculpture fan. But what that does, if you're looking for your favorites, is you go look at sculpture. And so the reason I tell you this is because it's the ending. This is like the ending of my presentation. It was at QuiltCon, and it will be at American Quilt Study Group next week, is that for me, the hierarchy between art and craft, pardon my language, is bullshit. It wasn't always that way, and it shouldn't be that way. And it's all about money and power to separate art and craft. It's crap. And instead of quilts trying to be art, try to be as good as art, to be in the art museums, to have access to these art museums, to be good enough, say, you can't fire me, I quit, you know? Like, I'm a quilt maker, that's what I do. I'm not art, I'm not craft, I make quilts. And so, you ought to have 5. You ought to have 5 quilt makers that when somebody asks you, who is it? Who do you love? Who makes you like, I think you should have 5, you know? And when I say should and when I say you oughta, you know what I mean. It's like, who are your 5, you know? Like, if you don't know, how much fun would it be to find them, you know? And by watching this show, you'll probably find them. You probably already do. I would say people who tune into this show week after week, for sure, could point to 5 that they love. Like, oh my God, Ruth McDowell, you know, and like Margaret Fabrizio and Joey Veldkamp, you know, we cover a lot of ground. And so that's it. That's what I wanted to say, is that I'm working on this thing and I'm back in the whole art, craft, quilt thing. And, you know, I want to have 5. I do have 5. I have 5 quilts for sure. Oh my God. Grandma Carpenter, whatever. So yeah, so that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts for this evening. And now let's get into some art. Yeah? How is everybody doing? I hope everyone is doing well. Pigtails. What is this? The hair was a problem. So, Christmas Ninja Turtles, are you? Unreal. Unreal. Kenny has to travel for work next week. Rodan. Oh, Rodan is so good. Auntie Sin. Hey, Drink Wine and So Lynn. Drink wine and so. Amen. Cross Brothers. I like certain sculptures, but I don't know who makes them. I love it. Molly. Oh, God. So, anyways. Slow So. Hey, Slow So. It's so good to see you. It's so good to see you. I hope folks are going well. Here is me getting small. Let me get small. How small? This, you know what? And we're gonna. Hey, Crosley. Hi. Oh, it's so good to see you, Lady K. Hello. Awesome. Listening, Lady K, in the car. I love that. It's great to have something to listen to, right? Live. It's like a radio show. Drive safe. And who else did I just see? Joyous Fibers is here. I love it. Okay. So this, all I'll say about this, because we've covered basically, you know, the theme here. I picked this because, and this was one of those weird moments, right? It was like a super weird moment because I looked in the Quilt Museum database for September. I was like, well, I want like I can't use a fall themed quilt tonight because it's like still hot outside. But I was like, what if there's a September quilt? And there was this one, and it was Michael James. It's Michael James. It's called Daybook, 8 September 2006. It's got some paint going on, I think, actually. I don't know. It might be digitally printed. I'm not sure, Michael James. I didn't get that far. I was thinking about you. I wasn't like looking at this quilt, but I mean, I was looking at it. I actually think it's really great, and it looks like graffiti, sort of, which I like. It looks very almost like rust in a city, like on a bridge or something. So I really like it. But it's called Daybook, 8 September 2006, which I think is very cool. I like it. This is very taggy. This is very Chicago tag like, you know what I mean? Very graffiti like. I like that. 809 Washington Street. I wonder where that is. Horatio, 809 Washington. He's in Boston, I believe, so maybe it's Boston. Okay. All right, everybody. So, Stephanie Cake, how are you doing? How are you tonight?
I am well. I am full to the brim with Raisinets now.
Excellent.
I told you I shouldn't have brought them to my desk. It was a bad deal because I ate them all.
I love Raisinets so much. Put a 1 in the chat if you like Actually, you know what? We're going to do a poll while I'm getting this other thing going. We're doing a poll. We're doing a Raisinets yes or no poll. And I'm launching it right now, and it'll be the fastest poll I ever launched because it's extremely easy to write. Raisinets. Raisinets. How do you spell Raisinets, Steph? Oh, great. Ah, she's holding it up. Wait, hold on. Raisinets. Raisinets? That's the question. Yes? No? Start poll. 5 minutes. Vote in the chat. I love them. I think they're amazing. I'm also eating chips tonight from Stephanie Cake. She sent me chips from her own town, Utz, original potato chips. Don't you live like a few blocks from the factory or something?
It's actually about 15 or 20 minutes, and it's actually in another state.
Oh.
But, yeah.
Isn't it in your backyard? Don't you live in the factory? Actually, no.
Pretty much. Pretty much. The chips, according to my mother, are much fresh, because she gets them where she lives too, in Virginia, but she claims they're much fresher when she comes here.
Really?
Because they don't have as far to travel.
Hey, it's true. Wouldn't it be just totally America if, like, they were actually imported from some other place in the country?
Yeah.
It's like, you guys, come on. Stephanie Cake is co-producer on the show. We really appreciate you. I also want to say hello to, our newest team member. God, I will never say that again. Biscuit. Biscuit is our lady of subscriptions. Is it a biscuit like Americans think it's a biscuit? Is it a biscuit, is her nickname a biscuit that is like a cookie? Perhaps it is a savory biscuit. Perhaps it is sweet. We don't know. We just know that Robin's Nest Creations, who's been a quilt nerd from the very early days, is helping us with subscriptions, and I really appreciate you, Robin. And we appreciate always Susanna in Kuwait. She's not even awake, and she's helping this show. So that's pie. Okay, we got the whole bakery going on. Okay, so when I say we're going to talk about art tonight, don't worry. We're talking about quilts. Believe me. There's a lot of video tonight. I have lots of different videos to show you. I mean, we're going to look at a very short video looking at silk, like textiles being made in Japan. It's insane. Oh my God, it's insane. It has bugs in it because silk comes from bugs, and I have a big bug thing. I can't. But I've got some videos tonight. So we're doing that. So things are going to get wild here in a second. But I've been wanting to talk about Robert Rauschenberg for a minute because Robert Rauschenberg, the artist, the sculptor, the visual mixed media artist, who is Worden Bird Nerd up in here? Worden Bird Nerd, are you up in the... Hey, Betsy Dragonflight.
I think she's...
Yeah?
I think she may not be here yet, or she might not be here tonight.
I haven't seen her yet. I haven't seen her. Black Licorice Christmas. Ugh, sorry, can't do it. Hey, Raffle. So Steph, I like to give Worden Bird Nerd a task or two, right? Because it's fun, because she's so fast. But could you look and see, is Robert Rauschenberg still alive? I think he is, or maybe it's Jasper Johns who... No, it's Rauschenberg's still alive. He's elderly.
I think I was looking at something with him the other day, and I was surprised he's still alive.
Me too.
Double check, but I'm pretty sure.
I believe that when I looked this up, I was like, oh, well, okay, he's still around. But wow, I mean, what a career! Very very well known American artist. Did combines, combining paint and other materials. Such as this piece, which is, I mean, there's a lot to say about Rauschenberg. Okay. Many books. Yeah.
Okay, I'm mixing him up with one of the other contemporaries. Yeah. He actually died in 2008.
Oh, 2008. Okay, so is it Jasper Johns who's still alive? One of these guys, is still around. One of those guys. Sorry. Anyway, so we've got, there's much to say about Rauschenberg. We're not going to do that tonight, except to look at this particular piece. 1955. Bed. It's called Bed. And Rauschenberg used an actual quilt in the piece. And I am a scamp. Auntie Sin, listen, you're saying you could sew cotton, but silk terrifies you? That's why I want to look at it, because I want to look at sewing silk. We're going to watch some stuff on it. Okay. He used an actual quilt in this piece, and he said, of it, he's spoken about it a little bit, or he spoke about it a little bit, and said his tone, I'm definitely paraphrasing, but like what I've read from him about it was like I just, that old thing, like I just took it who cares about it? You know, he was sort of like, he wasn't like, I'm going to put a quilt into this artwork and it's going to, you know, he was creating a piece called Bed, and he had a log cabin courthouse steps quilt. He definitely did not know it was called that, courthouse steps variation, and used it in this piece. Okay. And here's a really super close up. Yeah. Okay. So I knew about Bed. This work appears in the thing I'm doing at AQSG. But then long ago, I saw that. I saw this piece years ago, and I put it in a folder, and like, who knows, you know, where it went. But I found it again when I was like brushing up on stuff. And this is Robert Rauschenberg too. And this is called, it's either Blossom Spread or Credit Blossom Spread. What's hard about that is that I don't know if the word credit is actually like the caption of like, here's how you credit this work. But I swear to God, it's called Credit Blossom. Anyway, but who knows? But it's a spread. It's a spread. And that's what's important, is that Robert Rauschenberg created, oh my God, Raisinets is literally in a 50-50 dead heat. It's 50-50. If somebody likes...
You know what? And I bet, based on some of the comments, black licorice is probably the same deal.
Is that right? Really? It's half and half?
I bet you anything. If you, you'll have to do black licorice another time.
I will. I haven't tried it in a while. I don't know, but I don't know. Hey, Sweet Pea. So it's one of his spreads, and he has done these. He did these spreads from like the mid 1970s to the early 1980s. Okay, and this, I love this. I think this is really beautiful, and it's pen and ink and fabric, and that, you know, that was his thing, was he combined textile. I was a multimedia artist, you know, mixed media artist. I don't know if this is a full quilt or if they're blocks. I think that looks like a quilt block. Don't you think? That looks like, you know, that like it's almost like decoupaged on top. I'm not sure, but we know a quilt block when we see it, right? So, and they look like, well, I don't know, maybe that's a full quilt, because doesn't that look quilted? Let me go in. Look, doesn't that look quilted in straight lines? Like there's white sashing in between here, you know? I don't know. I think it might be the whole thing. But then how, I think it is, you guys. But then what is this in the middle? Maybe he cut it. Maybe he cut, oh yeah. Okay, what about this over here? Maybe this. I feel like my friend Jay Kazan might know about this if he's watching. Because that looks like,
yeah, just seeing this, it kind of reminds me of some of the Sanford Bears pieces. You're not like really sure where did the quilt start? Where does the painting start? It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah.
Totally. Oh, that's a good wine tonight. Yeah, exactly. So I'm not sure, but he did a bunch of these spreads that were very, very patchwork-like, and I think they're so interesting. And it says, so here's Robert Rauschenberg, and here's him in his studio. I mean, it's so textile, right? I mean, those are pieces of velvet in his studio. God, it's 1980. It's so 1980s. I mean, I guess it's just very, it looks like a picture from the past. But he's got all these patterns and decoration, and I was like, surely he was considered part of the pattern and decoration movement, but he was not, which is kind of weird to me, looking at this picture. So let me see. Yeah, okay. He had a big showing of these spreads at the Tate in 2018. The artist's large-scale collages celebrate, quote-unquote, the excess of the world. The excess of the world. But they're so quilty, you know? They're really, really quilty. And I didn't know these existed until I found that one. And I just thought, I don't know, if Robert Rauschenberg's bed piece gets so much attention when you're talking about quilts and art, and it does, these spreads like should definitely be part of the mix. I mean, it's so patchworked, right? It's fabric, and it's collage, and it's like scrap quilting. So I think that's really interesting. I feel like the Rauschenberg quilt pattern decoration connection has not been explored as much. Those are pattern pieces. And, you know, that makes me think, it sounds like something you'd see at Anthropologie, that store. But I saw a bathroom. Where was it? I think it was at a quilt shop. Was it Soho? Was it Pearl Soho or something in New York City? But somebody had wallpapered the bathroom with pattern pieces. It was so cool. It was really, really cool. It was a great look. I recommend it.
I have seen that somewhere too.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. And I think it's decoupage. I mean, it probably is, you know, I mean, wallpaper paste is really intense. So maybe it was just a decoupage.
Roll
I don't
some
know.
glue on the wall and put those up.
Yep.
Very cute. Very cute.
Yep. Here's some zipper action that he's done. So Rauschenberg. Oh, and this is a poster. Just a couple more. And then we're going to watch a video that Joe Cunningham made. We're going to watch it sped up a little bit, but he talks about, and Joe Cunningham, if you don't know him, I mean, he's a legend. You know, he's this legendary quilt maker. I mean, he worked with Gwen Marston. He learned at the knee, at least part of his education was with Mary Schaefer, the great quilt maker Mary Schaefer. And we're going to see him respond to Robert Rauschenberg's bed piece. And it's really interesting what he has to say. So Rauschenberg, 81. I don't know. It's just all fabric to me. Maybe I just look at fabric so much that I see it in everything. But this is interesting. Umbrellas. Interesting. Okay. So let me go to this. Okay. Oh, view results. Raisinets. How did we feel? 50-50. Dead heat. Huh. Well. What are you going to do? What are you going to do now, Raisinets? What's going to happen now? That's crazy. I mean, fully just half and half. Well, I think that kind of describes Raisinets, doesn't it?
Yeah,
some people like them, some people don't.
I'm actually kind of surprised. A lot of people don't like them. A lot of people are like, why would you brew chocolate with raisins?
And you're like, because reasons. Because raisins. Raisin reasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because raisins. Yeah. But they qualify as a health food that way, right?
Do they?
You thought of that.
That's, you keep telling yourself that, Stephanie, and I will too. Here's what I want. I'm going to do this just for a second to show you the scale of this piece, because I don't know if the picture really gives it credit. I'm not going to show you this much, but here. So this woman is viewing bed.
I think that the first time I saw this was when I was a teenager in the 80s. And I think it is the first Rauschenberg that I ever saw. And as a sculptor, I'm a sculptor, but I'm very interested in always talking about the edge between sculpture and architecture, the edge between sculpture and painting, the edge between sculpture and the moving image. So this was actually a really, really important painting / sculpture for me, because it really showed me what that discussion is. It's so precise. It does so many things at once.
Agreed. Okay. Oh, let's
this
look.
Painting is, for me, is so much about gravity. The fact that everything in it is being pulled down in real time, in real space. That the paint is dripping. That the
Okay, good. We got you. You're cool. And now we're gonna look at what Joe has to say. Okay, Joe Cunningham. Here we go. Here it is. So it's a 12-minute video. I'm going to play it at 1.5 speed. If that's too fast, let me know. But I want to make sure, and by the way, whenever I show any video of anything, but especially anything that involves quilt makers that are in our community or in the quilt system, please go to their channel, like the video, which you should do for every video that you watch and like at all, including the ones on my channel on YouTube. Hit the like button. It means everything. The algorithm ignores you unless you get those likes. And so like Joe's stuff, subscribe to Joe Cunningham's channel, please, because this is the give and take of ideas and it's important. Okay, so so this is Joe and we're gonna play back at 1.5 and see what he has to say about Rauschenberg's bed. And Joe Cunningham, he is the biggest deal. He's the biggest deal. He is a quilt maker who's so cool, and he's in San Francisco, and he'll be at AQSG, and so you'll get to meet him, and you'll be like, oh my God, I saw your thing on Quilt Nerd, and you're the best. Okay, so this is from 2013, so almost 10 years ago. It says, bed after Rauschenberg. Joe Cunningham responds to Robert Rauschenberg. Okay, let's check it out. I've been there. I've been to a studio.
I'm Joe Cunningham, and this is a work of art that I became familiar with many years ago. It's published.
He talks kind of fast. Okay, I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to bring it down to 1.25. I just want to make sure that you all, watch his video too, and I don't want to... Anyway, it's fine. Okay, here we go.
And lots of quilt books, the books about 60s and 70s history, because it's by Robert Rauschenberg, one of my favorite artists. I love this guy. But he took a quilt and nailed it to a piece of plywood and painted it and drew on it, along with his sheet and pillow. It's from 1955. It's one of his earliest combines. Well, like I say, I'm crazy about Rauschenberg. And this piece is always published in books, and they talk about, what Rauschenberg did as a statement of different types. Bed offers the viewer a look at some of the most intimate objects of life in a disconcerting context. Placed vertically, this private object, usually seen in its horizontal position, is both literally and figuratively in our face. And how does this make us feel? This is actually a thoughtful kind of discussion of this. Much more common is like on the Museum of Modern Art website, which I have right here. It says, bed is one of Rauschenberg's first combines. The artist's term for his technique of attaching found objects to a traditional canvas support. In this work, he took a well-worn pillow, sheet, and quilt, scribbled on them with pencil, and splashed them with paint in a style similar to that of the abstract expressionist drip painter Jackson Pollock. How about that? So, in all these things, the idea that what he was cutting up was a valid work of art in itself.
Oh!
That it was,
I'm sorry. Can we tap it back? Can we just tap it back?
In all these things, the idea that what he was cutting up was a valid work of art in itself. That it was, or if you don't even want to call it a work of art, it was a quilt that was handmade by a specific individual, probably a woman. And it was therefore a domestic object that had no value to him, or little value to him,
right.
Little value to anybody else. It's a blanket. It's just a quilt. It's just an old quilt. To me, old quilts are my whole world. And the idea that you could cut one up and just think of it as the raw material for a much improved, I mean, you could improve it there by making it a work of art. Just, well, I never really cared for that idea. And then when I saw this quilt at the Museum of Modern Art this year, I realized, oh, well, I know what I have to do. I have to do what Rauschenberg did, and I can get this thing out of my system. What I have to do is to take some paintings, like this one, Posing in Golden Gate Park by Margaret Fabrizio. Or this one.
He's real good friends with Margaret. I think he's in a lot of her videos, right? Because she's in San Francisco, too. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what their relationship is, but I think they're pals. At least they're in the same town, and I don't know. Remember when she tuned into this show? Maybe Margaret Fabrizio is still in the Lurker Lounge. That'd be way cool. That'd be like... Okay. So you see what he's doing. He's going to cut up paintings and make him into a quilt. I don't know. I didn't watch the whole thing. I was just like, oh, Joe Cunningham's talking about Rauschenberg's quilt. Let's do this.
By Christo.
Oh, Christo.
Bresnahan. Or this one by an unknown artist sent to me by a woman from Florida. So I have these 3 paintings, and I thought, what would be fun would be to treat these like painted canvas and make a quilt out of them.
That's a great idea. He's so cool.
If you took a long ruler and cut this painting.
Where's your cutting glove?
And cathartic. Because one of the things that I need here is to, one of the things I need to do is to get this thing out of my system so I can go on to my other quilts. So, what I'm going to...
do you do that? Do you put the blue tape on your sewing machine? I do. I haven't sewn on my sewing machine in so long, but I do that too. Do you do it, Cake? To help you with your line?
Yeah, because even if your foot is like you have like the 1/4-inch foot or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so easy for your fabric to like sort of wiggle a little bit, and then it's not coming in straight. And yes.
You know what it is? Yeah, it's a drag.
To do is simply use the same process, but in reverse, as it were. I'm going to use the painted canvas for the raw material.
Whoa, I'm really by his mouth. Wow.
And make that into a new work of art.
Sylvia, I love that. Sharpie.
Actually, I'm not doing it for anyone else. Only for myself.
Imagine,
I
right?
just want to see what happens. People often...
He's sewing paper. How cool is that? He's sewing a painting. He's sewing a painting into a quilt. Oh, he's so awesome.
Get mixed up. Or I should say that not people, I often get mixed up myself and start thinking that what I'm doing, I have to, what I should worry about most is what it looks like. But one of the ideas that I got from old quilts, a lot of my favorite old quilts, is that I don't think that the quilt makers were all that concerned with what it was going to look like. That it was mostly a fun thing to do, and they trusted that using these fabrics in the way they were using them was going to produce something that would be okay to look at. It would look okay when they were done. What I did was I decided I was going to make this quilt of cut-up painting.
He has to be like pals with Fabrizio, because like if he wasn't, like this would be a deep troll. Like, I'm gonna cut up a painting by this person. Margaret, you know, it's like, whoa, that was stone cold. So they're probably friends, okay.
And by doing that,
she was probably like,
I would
do
make
it.
my point. If a person can cut up a quilt and think of it as a mere textile,
interesting.
Then, well, painting is on canvas, and that's a textile.
Yeah, interesting.
I can perhaps get people to think about this act of cutting up quilts and treating them as if they have no aesthetic worth by cutting up a painting or two or three.
I love this. I did not know that this was his point.
So
pretty good.
That's what I set out to do. I did not care what it looked like. That was the key. I did not care what it came out like or what it looked like. I only cared what I was doing. And I actually finished it. And I used it for the first quilting project on my new long arm quilting machine.
Oh, wow. Really?
I took a chance because I was experimenting with this machine, but it worked out all right.
Oh.
Like I was saying yesterday, what I succeeded in doing.
Are you serious? Look at it. That's it. Right? Is that it? No. Is that it? No. Wait, I don't know.
I think so, because like the part that's over there, like it's on his left-hand side, our right-hand side. That looks like the pieces.
Oh, I am freaking out. Are you kidding me?
Now the stuff up over and those two dark colors.
Oh my god, I'm
like
falling
one
down.
cut in half.
I almost fell.
The face?
Yeah.
What's over his right-hand shoulder though, that looks like it's got some mixed, maybe some stuff mixed in there, or I don't know, maybe that's paintings too.
He did, when he showed the painting from the woman from Florida, I don't think I saw it very well, so I think maybe that's the darker faces. I mean, look, you know what? It's not okay, Joe. It's not okay. You're just too good at art, okay? Okay? Boo. He's also good at cooking, because I had dinner at his house. Did I just name drop and said I had dinner at Joe Cunningham's house? I did. Okay, all right, that's super annoying, sorry. Okay, let's go back. Let's hear him speak about things, not me.
I was tricking myself into not worrying about what it looked like. So I was just cutting and sewing and trying to make a rectangle, a square, a rectangle, or something out of this quilt. to make it big enough to make my statement that if Rauschenberg could paint on a quilt, I could quilt on a painting. And I could even cut paintings up and insult them all kinds of ways. What I liked about this idea...
Did he say insult them? No. Did he really? That was funny. Wait, hold on.
It sounded like what he said. I probably didn't, but...
Let's see.
I could quilt on a painting. And I could even cut paintings up and insult them all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
What I liked about this idea was that it was
That's great.
unethical to cut up somebody else's art.
Wow.
It's possibly illegal in certain places.
Oh shit. Oh yeah, sure. You can, if you cut up I don't know, it depends on who owns it, right? And how many millions and millions of dollars they paid for a painting, they could probably cut it up, but I don't know. That's interesting. Art law is interesting stuff.
It's at least taboo. It's a taboo to cut up a painting. So in that regard, it gives you an electric thrill to do. It was so much fun. And then to sew the stuff together is a pain in the patootie, is what that is, because it's crusty canvas, and the sewing machine doesn't like it. My quilling machine didn't like it. The biggest problem was paint flecks that were flying everywhere. The design that I quilted it with is leaves, and I just wanted to do freehand leaves all over it. It's one of my favorite quilting designs. I wanted it to be something really quilty, in the same way that Rauschenberg had dripped paint all over it. It was very painterly, what he did to the original quilt.
We saw it, right?
Remember? Bed. I wanted to make mine very quilty and treat it like a quilter would. So I put leaves on it. It's just vines with freehand leaves. One of my very favorite designs of all time, in any case. I saw another thing like this recently at the Chicago Museum of Contemporary Art, the MCA, I think.
It's right over there.
In Chicago, by a guy named Sanford Biggers,
Ooh.
who took a quilt, Pennsylvania, German, cabin.
See, we haven't talked about Sanford yet. Sanford. But yeah. And he's Chicago. He's a Chicago guy. Actually, I don't know if he's from Chicago, but he went to the School of the Art Institute. Wow, that was really loud. And great. So look, in 2013, if Joe Cunningham saw Sanford Biggers at the MCA, I'm pretty sure that would have been real early in Sanford Biggers' like rocketing to stardom, because I mean, I heard about him, I saw his stuff in like 2018, 17, 18-ish. I was in grad school, and that was 2016 to 2018. So this is interesting, right? Because this is from 2013. So Joe is talking about Sanford Biggers in 2013. Interesting.
Beautifully quilted, beautifully made, and cut it up and used it for his own art piece, where it was called cotton textile. It's listed in the caption, cotton textile. It has no value until Sanford Biggers, the artist, gives it value by making a piece of art out of it. Some
shade from Joe Cunningham towards Sanford Biggers. I have a response. I know you're all so excited.
So this thing that I was thinking is like a long dead conversation about art and craft, and how craft is not legitimate until the person stops making craft and starts making art. How craft is not legitimate, how a quilt is not anything of any aesthetic value, unless it resembles modern art, of course. Then that it was a dead argument, that these fights have all been fought so long ago, and it's so tedious to keep going back into it.
Yeah.
And yet, there in Chicago, I see this new piece by Sanford Biggers. They're considering buying it.
I'm sure they did.
The exact same thing as Rauschenberg. Not the exact same thing. He took a quilt, cut it up, painted it, and did all kinds of stuff to it.
And he did
then totally negates its original value by calling it cotton textile. Totally ignores the possibility that it had any aesthetic value when it was a simple quilt. What I did was I cut up the painting, as you saw, and then I sewed it together in chunks, and as I got a chunk done, I would put a piece of yellow bias tape on it and say, that chunk is done. That chunk was done, this chunk got done, this chunk, and so on. And I would put a piece of yellow bias tape on the chunks as I got them done. And then when I had it all assembled, then I got to see what it was going to look like. and what those pieces of yellow bias tape are going to do.
Bias tape. He does
the whole thing.
Great things.
That's how I did it, and that's what I did. What I didn't expect was how much I would enjoy what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
To me, what a quilt looks like is the last thing that I'm interested in. I just find out what it
That's so interesting. Did you hear that? That's really, no matter what you're working on, that's really cool.
looks like is but enjoy what it. What I didn't expect was how much I would enjoy what it actually looks like. I mean, to me, what a quilt looks like is the last thing that I'm interested in. I just find out what it looks like by making it. What I didn't expect was to enjoy what this looked like so much. So much so that now I'm looking around sort of hungrily for other paintings to cut up. And I have a couple at home I'm going to bring, and I'm going to make another one of these, I think.
Hell yeah.
Make a series. Why not? Maybe that would have a little bit more impact than a single quilt. A whole series of quilts. It's made up of cut up paintings. And I'll get to put in the caption, I just cannot wait. This will be called Bed, after Rauschenberg. Close quote. 2013. Painted canvas. And bias tape.
Paint. Right. What he's saying, his point is right. Painted canvas, not a painting. Right. I probably don't need to explain, but rather than quilt or log cabin quilt, courthouse steps variation, was just textile, right? In Sanford Biggers's work, and so he's going to be like painted canvas. Ooh, burn! Super burn! Wow.
I like Joe Cunningham and his subtle shadiness.
Super subtly shady.
I could definitely hang with him.
You can hang with him? Listen, I don't know. I haven't met many people who, I'm saying it. I can say it with my whole chest. Who doesn't have a crush on Joe Cunningham? I'm not going to be like, I have a crush on him. Oh. No, everyone has a crush on Joe Cunningham. I mean, what's not to love? Anyway, that was interesting. I did not know that we would be, I dipped in and out of the video. I was like, this looks awesome. I mean, it's Joe, right? He can't really do any wrong things. So we watched it. We did that. We watched it. We watched Joe talk about Robert Rauschenberg. Super interesting. I'm into it. Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about that piece, and I wanted to talk about art and quilts, and now we did, And what's nice about having the freedom on a live stream to talk about, whatever you want to talk about and watch videos and stuff, is that we don't have to be any one kind of show. And, it's like we're not like a show about art quilts, and we're not a show about traditional quilts. And I pointed out because, quilts often have to be categorized. They're modern quilts, or they're art quilts, or they're traditional quilts, or whatever. And it's like, it's just not that easy. It shouldn't be. It often is. And it's not that easy, but people with very exquisite reasons play into those categories because they want to have their quilt in a show, or they want to do, different things, and they want to try a certain style that's sort of been codified, like the modern quilt style or whatever. But life isn't that way. And the show isn't that way either. So we can talk about art, we can talk about all different kinds of things, and that's the way I like it. So I hope you like it that way too. Okay, Cake, I'm going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about silk quilts, from Rauschenberg to silk, from Joe Cunningham to silk. That was, I'm just being a silly person. I'm being silly. So we're going to do that. Cake, do you have things? Do you want to say things?
Oh, I can always talk about things.
I love it. I love it when you talk about things. Stuff and thins. Okay, let's do it. I'm going to cut to you, and I will be back in just a bit. You good?
I'm good.
Right on.
All right. So I would be remiss if I didn't remind everybody that it is September, and I don't think Mary played the pie video, but I think a lot of you were here the other day when she did, and she might play it before the show is out today. But I have to say it, please subscribe. And if you are unable to subscribe at a higher tier, or don't like Twitch or whatever, totally cool. No harm, no foul, but definitely let people know about the show. I think that's sort of the big thing right now, is just getting the word out and letting people know what Mary's doing here. So with that said, Mary didn't give me a whole lot of books to prepare for you guys today, because I think she has other things that she's thought of. So I thought I would mention 2 books that I have, and I'm bad at multitasking, so I'll have to put the links in the chat in a moment. But the first one is actually the Sanford Biggers book, Code Switch. And as soon as we started this Joe Cunningham video, I pulled Code Switch out and started looking at it kind of in tandem, because when Mary pulled up the Rauschenberg piece the other day, even though we didn't get to it, I looked at it and I thought, oh, well, so that's who Sanford Biggers has been copying all these years, but really not. I don't know if you're familiar with Sanford Biggers' work. If you're not, I give you permission to read ahead and Google him. I have to admit, he cuts up quilts, which some of us get, the cold chills about, but I really like his work. I like the stuff he does. And, I've, not to bring up Quilt Coat Gate or any of that again, but I have like these very personal feelings about what you do with a quilt that is no longer like in service. So, if it's an antique quilt or a vintage quilt, I don't feel good about cutting it up and making something frivolous out of it. So as an example, the Emily Bode coats, or Bode coats. Those are beautiful coats. If I could afford one, some of them are so cool, totally my style, I would purchase one of those and I would wear them. I would wear it forever and ever and ever. And for something like that, I think, yeah, it's probably okay to repurpose a quilt into something like that I would wear forever and ever and ever. But if I was just going to wear it out once and be done with it, that's where I get very angry about repurposing quilts for non-quilt activities. But what I was going to say about, Sanford Biggers and even Rauschenberg, and, there are other artists that do similar types of work. I look at those as almost, although I kind of think that the original maker might take issue with somebody painting their quilt, I feel like those are more of a collaboration. And maybe it's a one-sided collaboration, considering the original quilters are, probably long gone and wouldn't have, you wouldn't be able to find them anyway, because again, so many quilters don't label their quilts, or, they were the nameless, faceless makers. So anyway, I guess that's my long-winded way of saying, I think that there is something appropriate in utilizing quilts to further the artwork that was begun by the original creator. And I think that Sanford Biggers does that well. And I like Bed. It's a little off-putting when you look at it, like, this man painted part of that quilt. But when you really look at it, it is an intriguing piece of work. So I guess that's my wishy-washy way of saying, I don't know how I feel about Sanford Biggers, but I like looking at the book I have. The other book I was going to talk about is actually called Purpose Repurpose. And if anybody is a member of SACWA, you may have heard of this show or this exhibition. It's a regional exhibition. So it is the Maryland, Washington, D.C., and West Virginia region. And typically, especially here in the Mid-Atlantic, my region is the Maryland region. Our region will often invite the Virginia, North Carolina region. So I think that's what this exhibit was about. Anyway, the book is on Amazon, and it's one of those print-on-demand things. But it was really fun looking at all these quilts. I just, you can't make it to an exhibit, or the exhibit is just really not up for very long. It's so awesome when the curators or whoever the show organizer or supporter is will put together these books. And I have to say, this one is, it's probably about 50 pages long or so. And it's got really nice, really nice details. And yeah. So I'll put the links in as Mary comes back. And
Do your thing. Do your thing, Cake. Do your thing. Do your thing. I'm not rushing you at all. I just had to pop and do that. Okay, good.
Yeah, starting to run out of things to say about
really?
purpose or purpose Sanford Biggers.
You should make a video. That would be good. No, Sanford Biggers. So what I was looking for actually was, I just read it today. Fascinating. Maybe yesterday. If I read it today, I'd have it on hand. But I read about Judy Chicago, and she was talking about how she worked with China. She studied with like China pattern painters. China painting. The China painting. And she said, I'll find it. I don't even want to paraphrase it because it was so beautiful, but she was saying basically like a lot of the people who were doing the China painting looked at her like, what are you doing? Like, are you gonna like appropriate our stuff? Or not even that, but just like, why are you looking at what we do in this like way that's sort of this weird way that you're sort of objectifying us, whatever. And her point was basically that like she's using art. She wanted to use art to help further her message of like feminist like advancement. She said it so well, and it was like, well, so if you're using quilts in art, because I had an answer before about like why Sanford Biggers was like cool with me, but like if you're using it in art, which is for everyone, unlike fashion, which is for one, you could say, right? If you're using it for art, which is for for more than one person, and for hopefully like sort of like eternally, whatever, if you're using it for this, but that's why that conversation made so many people, really think about it, whether they liked it or not. When there was like a very public statement made about it, like no matter who it was, no matter what no matter where it was, an article or a video, or whatever, when that conversation kind of happened, it was like, yeah, it's a really interesting conversation. And I think what's great, I mean, Sanford Biggers is so talented. Like I saw his work in a gallery in London. Most of it was his sculpture from like stone. He's incredibly talented. He's so good. And so when there's like really good art made, you're like, it's fine.
I don't know as much about his other stuff. I really know about the quilt pieces.
Exactly.
So yeah, I want to, knowing that he does do other stuff like film and performance and stuff, I'm kind of, when I have time to, go out and look at him. Of course, if the quilt nerds need a piece on Sanford Biggers, I could probably be a
Hey man.
I'm not the high quality video maker that Mary is.
Well, you could make an animation with like Sanford Biggers' head like bouncing around the screen just fine, believe me. I can tell you how to do it. But yeah, maybe
or Judy Chicago, that's another option.
Listen, Stephanie Cake, I'm gonna keep campaigning for everybody who is involved in this community to like just consider one day like putting down your thoughts, right? Like in a sort of a way that like, maybe you could publish in the Quilt Nerd Journal. I don't know. I'm not saying there is one. There literally isn't one, or plans to have one exactly, but who knows? Anyway, but I would love to hear your thoughts, like your sort of formal thoughts on Sanford Biggers. I'd love that. I'd read that. I would read that. I'd read it on the show.
And Joyce Fibers just did content director. We're getting backed up on content directors, Mary.
I know. Listen. Oh, Judy Chicago. Yeah. Judy Chicago and Faith Ringgold. I'm telling you, it could exist. It should exist. Okay. Hey, Flinster. What's up, girl? Okay. So here we go. And is it okay? So I'm thinking of Lady K. Lady K's driving. She's like, please don't end the show yet. And we usually go about 2 hours, and I feel like silk quilts, I've got things to tell you about silk quilts. We've got videos to watch, okay? But first, I didn't know if I was going to get to it, but I'm going to get to it. Because, darn it, I want to. I found these things. I didn't even tell you about this, but this is a surprise for you. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me get to the thing. Okay, here we go. I was looking around at... Well, I was looking for silk quilts, okay? And on this one website, this auction site, I found these wonderful things. Wonderful things including, and we're gonna get to silk, don't worry. I mean, this is like a brief interlude before silk, but Look at these. These are from the 1930s. They are templates. They are quilting templates. August 7th, 1930. Look at that. It's templates from, boxes, cereal boxes, or shoe boxes, or newspaper pieces. It's 1930s collection of quilting patterns, stencils from Portland, Maine. And I just think this particular gallery, what is it from? It's, the Glee Kruger collection. Cake's got the link here in just a second. But the way that they styled all of these it's just gorgeous. Like the color, but I mean, they didn't have to do that much because, I mean, the colors of these are like, holy cow, they're gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, look, these are the shapes that we know. Look at that. That's kind of like a pinwheel. I mean, it's interesting. Well, is it a pinwheel? It's almost like a kaleidoscope, but without the paper piecing. This thing back here behind the star. Yeah? Cake, you see that?
Yes, I do. I love these so much. They're so beautiful. I have to say, I like my plastic templates because they're nice and crisp. You trace too hard around these, they start to get a little bendy, but...
Oh, yeah.
Our foremothers did not have nice, neat plastic
including your mom and my mom, right? They were using cereal boxes, right? Now these... Oh,
yeah, my mom still does.
These are quilting templates, right? These here, that's not a quilt block, right? But that's a quilting template. And maybe these are all, maybe they're all quilting templates, actually, in that case. But there's more. Look at these. Look at these. Aren't those wonderful? I mean, the colors alone. Now, talk about a combine. I mean, this looks to me like, come on, frame that. I'm serious. Frame it. Whoever laid it out did a very good job. This looks little, Dada to me or whatever. I mean, it's like super abstract, but look at that feather. We've seen that feather rendered in quilt stitches many, many, many times. Many times. Judy Chicago, Joyous Fibers, by the way, with pleasure. With pleasure, we will look at Judy Chicago. Look at, it's just great. That cord, like a cord template. There's not much of it, so they've repeated that many times. And then there's a couple others. God, look at, these are older. These, I believe, wait, is that true? No, maybe not. No, this is from all the same collection. Wow. Now that's a Hawaiian looking one, right? I mean, it looks ish, right? Suspenders. Look at this. Work and dress suspenders, 39 cents. Wow. Amazing. Whew. So what they also have, just look at this last one. God, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous, these colors. And then there's a little booklet, Patchwork Quilts, a collection of 37, what does it say? 37, I wish it was a higher resolution. But a little, look at that little pumpkin. Look at that little scamp with her little quilt. Gorgeous. I mean, really, this place is like, whoever's taking photography for them, look at this. Look at the pineapple.
Look at the pineapple. It doesn't look like, is it got like holes punched in it? Maybe,
well, exactly. I wondered the same thing. It's like, maybe that's just a reference for after you trace the pineapple. Like, cause like, how would you do? I don't know. That is, it's interesting.
Yeah, I know I've seen those ones where you think, and I don't know how old the technique is. I always thought of it as old-fashioned, but maybe it isn't that old. Is where you poke the holes in something, and then you can use powdered chalk to
pounce
the design. Yeah. Maybe that's a newer technique than I thought it was, because I thought maybe some of these might be like that too, but it doesn't look like they are.
I think it's old, Steph. I think so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the pouncing. Okay, well here. So here, check this out. Oh wait, yeah. Okay. Look. So they have these. Look at these. Quilting stencils from Okay, 19th century, but I mean, earlier 19th century. I mean, that ain't like 1890. Come on. 19th century metal, linen, fabric. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Hang on. Okay, no. I'm wrong. Okay, so those are quilting stencils. I still maintain they do not look late 19th century. They look earlier 19th century, but those are quilting stencils, okay? And I do have the other thing I was going to read, which is also amazing. Okay, 3-cut steel quilting template pattern stencils. They didn't have a year on it, but they have 3. They're sold. Like, I think everything I'm showing you was already sold, and they didn't have prices on them. Look at that. Look, I mean, that's steel. Isn't that? It's so elegant. Those little nuanced, like, little cleavage, sort of the reversed cleavage, you know, of that it's almost like a clover, a 4-leaf clover, the ninja throwing star. I mean, these are really cool. And I liked that they showed the scale, you know, with the hand. Lady K made it home. Nice. Padma, how are you? Padma's here. I don't know if I said hi to Padma. Okay, and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing I was going to show you. Look at these. This. Oh. 19th century metal linen fabric quilt stamp. Cranston, Rhode Island. Harriet N. Emerson. We have seen these. I have never seen this before. I have seen a stamp from time to time, right? We've seen it on quilts from time to time. A stamp with a name or something, you know? Well, this is it. Harriet N. Emerson had the scratch to make a damn stamp for her name. And here's what I have to share with you. But check this out. They have a few of them, or they did. Look at these things. You know, this is like why, like, if I don't have everything perfectly ready for you, perfect, I mean, most of the time I try. But if I ever screw up and I'm like, oh, I don't have this thing, and oh no, this is out of order, it's because I was looking for one thing and I found these. And I'm like, I have to show them, you know, like I have to print out the information, and that's what I mean. When, if anything ever goes wrong on this show, it's probably because I found stamps, you know. But check this out. So Harriet had her name on them, but look at this. Insert name here. So that leaves you space for a signature quilt, perhaps. Fascinating, right? Here's what they have to say, and the writing is really good on this website too. It is amazing how small items can whisper a story when you listen. Oh. From the late 18th century onwards, New England was overflowing with textile mills. Correct. By 1815, this is so good for an auction site. First Dibs doesn't care. They don't care about what you feel or think or want. By 1815, Rhode Island had 167 operating textile mills. Cranston Prince, a lot of you will know Cranston Prince. Cranston was home to the largest mill of them all, Sprague Printworks. This lovely stamp, they're selling it, man, for real. This lovely stamp bears the name for Harriet N. Emerson. Born in New Hampshire, she made her way to Cranston, Rhode Island, where she married William Grinnell. Okay, this was either her personal stamp as a seamstress or used as a way of monogramming her own clothes. The stamp design features a central harp. Oh, I didn't notice. Interesting. Surrounded by floral motifs. In the middle of the raised design, there is a channel allowing for type to be inserted. In the middle, there's a channel. Interesting. Well, I thought that was this. Either way, they're cool. See, that's Harriet, and then there's those other two. So great. I mean, wow.
That little thumb screw holds the type in.
Oh,
so yeah, so that would be, I took, Comtech in high school. We got to make rubber stamps.
Did you really? Listen,
Yeah.
shop.
But yeah, so that little thumb screw that was shaped like a little clamshell.
Little clamshell.
Like they put the script in there. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Hey, you know what?
That's what I do. I invented Post-its.
Yeah, that's great. That is awesome. I didn't know. I thought it was maybe just like insert your name here, but that's where you put in the type. Fascinating. Fascinating. And then the last thing from this website were these. They are hand-forged iron quilting clamps, circa 1840. Hand-forged iron quilting clamps, circa 1840. Elegant simplicity in an early set of hand-wrought quilter's C-clamps. Very refined, forged iron sewing clamps from the early 19th century. These are substantial in size and weight. Clamps are unsigned, and there's one other picture of them. Look at that. Look at those beautiful detailing. So cool, right? I mean, wow. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. It's neat, isn't it? Ellerig, sending your kids to camp, got to write their name in their undies. I love it. So true. Auntie Sin would buy the clamps. Get them clamps. Get them. I mean, art. So Steph, did you put the link in the chat? I think that was the one I gave you, right? Or did you give it?
I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I did. And I'm very sorry you gave it to me because I'm a sucker for all things sewing notions and all those little, I could window shop at those kind of places forever. Mm-hmm. Good.
Share it. Go buy their stuff. I loved what they did with all of their, and they have really good quilts too. And I found them because I was looking for silk stuff, and they have a little silk remnant there. Cool, man. Very cool. Okay. Now, let's take a look at a few silk quilts and watch a couple videos. It's 8:30. It's early. It's early, people. I mean, I don't know. The only other thing I'm going to do tonight is play Beat Saber for a while, probably. Anyway, so I was thinking about silk. It just kind of came to me. I just wanted to think. You know, what can I say? It came to mind. And what we're not going to look at tonight, because it's its own thing, is the cigar silk quilt. Because I've been thinking about the cigar silk ribbon quilt segment for a while, or they're not necessarily quilts, right, but coverlets. A lot of times the people who made these cigar silk textiles, like I've seen a lot that were game table covers and things. But if you don't know what I mean, what I'm talking about is that there are, in most textile collections, right, I mean, I would imagine that most like serious textile collectors or collections in museums have a cigar ribbon quilt or coverlet, and they're literally made of cigar ribbons, the ribbons that were used to tie around bundles of cigars. If you have cigar boxes in your life because you smoke cigars, I feel like there's got to be a quilt nerd out there who's like, I like a good cigar. Maybe in the box, you know, you'll have a cigar ribbon that's like in the box, but bundling them and wrapping them with a ribbon was a thing that was done, maybe still done. I dated a guy who smoked cigars. Actually, two different guys. Depends on the guy. It's kind of sexy, also kind of like, please put it out. Anyway, so this is a whole thing, right? This is a whole thing on its own. So it definitely qualifies, like in the silk quilt universe, the cigar silk ribbon thing is really interesting, and I didn't want to not mention it because I feel like you all know so much, you know, even more than you think you do. Some of you know how much you know as quilt nerds, but I mean, even if you don't think you know about like the silk quilt, you know, universe, you know, the cigar silk quilt is like, you know, it's out there, and I bet you know, somebody would have said, hey, what about those? So we'll look at those separately. I can tell you though about this one. It's worth mentioning that this particular quilt was made in 1900 by Anna Marie Horn Hanekamp, and it is at the it's in the Smithsonian. And they say each of these ribbons tied together a bundle of 25 to 50 cigars. and that the cigar ribbons were mostly collected by and traded amongst women. You know, so there's so much more to say about these. Oh, pain. Okay, now I just want to read it. The silk cigar ribbons. Okay, oftentimes the collector would display their stashes by sewing the ribbons into a pillow, tablecloth, or even more rarely, and in this case, a queen-size quilt. This piece memorializes a predominantly male pastime in a medium whose artworks were created predominantly by females. Painstakingly sewn together using a crazy quilt-like embroidery stitch. The blocks in this piece alternate between log cabin pattern and square in a square. The inside squares of the aforementioned blocks echo the squares in the quilt's corners, drawing the eye to the corner and back again in the main pattern. The repetition of brand names in the quilt's border increase dramatic impact. The black embroidery emphasizes the printed brand names of the cigars. Wow. Amazing. 1900. 87 by 66. That's a lot of ribbons. That's ribbons. Isn't that crazy? It's wild. Anyway. Okay, so, and I found this. This is, I mean, this was in a it's one of those internet pictures that, like, I just didn't have anything else to tell you about, but it's a block. It's a quilt block. These are vintage cigar ribbons. I told you I wasn't going to tell you about cigar ribbons, and here we are. But these are cigar ribbons, but this is quilted, I think. I mean, I couldn't tell you more about it. I wish I could, but I found this, and the quality of the picture was good. But when I clicked on it, it was like, this page no longer exists, or, you know, this item is no longer available, something like that. But that, it's a block, and I look at the color, the way they did that. I mean, I didn't know there were blue cigar ribbons. Most of the time, the cigar ribbon quilts I've seen or coverlets are gold, almost exclusively gold, right? So this blue, and I mean, Uncle Josh, that looks fairly modern, but I mean, what is going on here?
Yeah, blue and pink must have been really rare.
Yeah, or more recent, because the Uncle Josh, I mean, that's like, what's going on with that? That looks extremely, it's very dark ink. They got this pink. It looks different. It looks from a different era. So maybe this is a more contemporary thing, but like, those are old ribbons, you know? I mean, this looks pretty like 1970s font, a little bit, you know? Who knows? It's a mystery. It's a mystery, but it's really cool. Oh, Square Deal. Who did the Square Deal? That was Roosevelt, right? I think the Square Deal. So that'll date it. That'll date it for us.
That's the New Deal?
The New Deal, yeah. But somebody did the Square Deal. Who was the Square Deal? Whoops. Who was the Square Deal? Okay, well, I'll have somebody will tell us. Somebody will tell us. But I mean, it was a square deal. Somebody, yeah, we gotta have a square deal. I swear it was a president. I swear. Anyway, yeah. But we're not talking about cigar quilts. Really, we're not. So the silk quilts that I want to look at, I don't know, just because this is wonderful. This is it was inscribed, made by my great-grandmother Dickie, 1860. And it was part of a collection of the Grant collection. And I just think it's so cool. My mom made a quilt called Check Boxes some years ago. It was kind of her foray into the modern quilt style, and it looked a lot like this. And this is all silk, and I just think it's so cool with the different stripes and the plaids. I think they used the fabrics to really, just in a successful way, design-wise. I mean, those, I don't know, like, that's a directional print. You know what I mean? And if you've used directional prints, yeah, Roosevelt. Okay, good. Domestic program. Okay, good. Thank goodness. If I was fully wrong on that, I would have felt really dumb. You know, the square deal. You know, the square meal. The president who figured that out. Yeah. Okay. Well. Like, look at this block. This is really great. That's a bordered fabric, right? I mean, that's not pieced. The black is not pieced. And so it's just really, really cool design choices. And I've never sewn silk. So if you have sewn silk, it's the square deal too. Padma, you know what? You're right. It's pretty good. It's pretty good timing. So I've never sewn silk. So, I mean, let me know in the chat. Have you sewn silk? Have you made silk patchwork? Because I went and looked for different videos to show you. We're going to watch one in just a minute that talks about sewing silk. I mean, and there's a fair amount. Alex Anderson has a couple videos that looked good, but I like to give attention to smaller channels and like people who don't get as many views. So we're going to look at that. This one, but I want to give you some examples before we do go there. This is at the National Museum of American History, hexagon silk quilt. This is silk. Using an elaborate silk quilt such as this hexagon example in the parlor gave the accomplished needlewoman an opportunity to show off her work. It was made in the last quarter of the 19th century. The unknown maker who created this, the artist who was once known, right, displayed both her design and needlework skills as evidenced in the intricate pieced work, embroidery, and quilting on both quilts, which were combined to make one. Okay, yeah. I've got the other. Okay, the large star shapes on the top of the quilt. Oops. Wait a minute. Hold on. That's the right one, right? Yeah. Wait a minute. Wait. Yes. Okay. The large star shapes are composed of 1 3/8 inch silk hexagons. Each shape is contained, okay, yeah, so they're talking about the center, not the top of the quilt, but the center, like inside the hexie. Within a ring of black hexagons, further set off by another circle of stars made by 5/8 inch diamonds. 5/8 inch diamonds. In contrast, the center focus is a rose, embroidered in chenille yarn on black velvet. This is echoed by the 4.5 inch black velvet border, embroidered in a rosebud vine pattern. Wow, wait a minute. I thought that was fabric. Like, I thought that was a print, but that's embroidered. Whoa! Those are all, oh my God. I don't know what I did without you, Stephanie Kate, because like, before you, I would just be like, whoa, wow! But now I can look over at you and you're like, it's great. God, everything, God bless you. Yeah, so this, okay, so rosebud vine pattern, all embroidered. Look at that. That's all hand embroidered. I can't believe this. It's completed with cotton filling and red cotton lining and quilted with outline stitching on the hexagons and diamonds. We call that stitch in the ditch. A second quilt, okay, they talk about that. Yeah, okay. So that's all silk too, okay? All silk. Amazing. This one I liked. This was for sale. I liked it because we're going to look at preserving. There's a brief video from Texas State University, a collector. It's like 4-minute video about preserving silk quilts, which I think speaks to a lot of, you know, it's interesting to look at that side of things. And this is wearing, right? This is a hired hand quilt, they say, on First Dibs. It's 620 pounds, so GBP, 620 pounds. It's for sale. Silk hired hand quilt, 19th century. I don't know. I mean, I've seen hired hand quilts that are shaped that way or look like that. I don't know enough about the hired hand quilt, but like, I don't know. Silk seems so fancy. It's like, I don't know. But this is great. Isn't this a great picture? Look at that. It's really good. Silk is flaking, right? It's pretty fragile. If you've seen crazy quilts, you know, that are really old. I mean, they kind of like, they just flake. They flake away.
It cracks and there's nothing there. It's so sad.
Yep. Look at the back. Isn't this great? I feel like this is badass. Jen makes shapes. Jen makes shapes. It's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, Word and Bird Nerd. This is like, I don't know. This looks like David Bowie or something to me. I mean, it's like so daring with that line down the middle. I have to zoom out. Look at this thing. This is the back of that. Isn't that great? Ugh, God. Come on. I mean, forget it. Look at this. So now they've turned the back, turned the front toward the back. That thing is cool. I'm sorry. That quilt is cool. The back of that quilt is cool. It's daring. It's great. There's that subtlety between the black and the navy, and then you have this like hot pink, like shocking pink, like Mary Quant mini skirt pink, you know, Schiaparelli, Elsa Schiaparelli, whatever. It's great. It's great. It's great. I love it. I threw this one in here. This is Risa Nagin. We looked at this quilt before when we talked about that artist, Risa Nagin, R-I-S-E with the like umlaut or the 2 dots above. This is silk. And I thought I'd bring it up because she made this out of silk. And, you know, if we're talking about silk quilts, like they don't all have to look like crazy quilts or cigar ribbon quilts. This is beautiful, and it's silk. And so, you know, like all the things I look at and sort of stumble upon, like it's interesting to look at older silk quilts, because when you do see art quilts that are using silk in them, you're like, oh, right, okay, cool. 2 more. I mean, I have a bunch, but I want to show the videos now. But this one, 19th century, 90 by 80. This quilt was one of 2, okay, from the Grant collection that was sold at Freeman's auction. There was this one, I'm going to come back to it, and this one. And they're both silk, and they both, look at this. I mean, you're going to get dizzy. I know. They both sold for a total of $531. Both together, $531. I know. I mean, I just, like, how do we value things? Like, and meanwhile, I'm looking at a Mark Rothko. I had to look up, like, what's the most expensive or the most highest priced Mark Rothko painting that was ever sold? $82 million. $82 million for red, orange, yellow. Now, I'm not being like, I could have painted that. I couldn't have painted that. But, like, really? It's so arbitrary, you guys. Like, are you kidding me? It's so weird. To this quilt, this one, and this one, and this one, $531 total at Freeman's auctions. This is, I mean, some of those very, very small hexy quilt, mosaic quilts, I don't dig. I love this. There's nothing I don't love about this. Is like, mwah, gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Yeah, but it's a Rothko, exactly. Hey, my great cats. I know. It's just, you know what it is? It's yummy. That's what it is. It's yummy. Oh, look at those. God, that red. I just can't get enough of it. Oh, God. And it's tied, right? And I wonder about silk, because you see a fair amount of silk quilts that are tied. So anyway, okay, so oof, it's like I don't even want to leave that one. You know, you like something if you just don't even want to leave it. Like at a museum, you see a painting and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to leave, you know, or a piece of art. I just this it's glowing. It looks like light bright. Maybe that's why I really like it, because it looks like a light bright. But like the best light bright you've ever done as a 6-year-old.
It's just got that gorgeous striped quality when you zoom out. Like,
yes,
you just don't expect that from, I mean, essentially a grandmother's flower garden hexie flower.
Oh my God, that's it. Steph, that's it. It's striped. I've never seen it. You're right. That's it. That's what it is. It's a striped hexagon. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, like, that is it. That is it. I've never seen a striped hexie quilt. Mom! My mom's in the chat. Mom! Mom, I love you, Mom. Mom, oh my God. I'm so excited. Mom and I are going to go on a trip in February. Mom, you know we're going to have to stream. We're going on a trip. We're going on a trip to, oh, Molly, you got to do a stripe. Do a stripe. Seriously, do a stripe. Mom, isn't this great? Oh, Mom, I'm so glad you're here. I miss you so much. But we had Missoni. Who said Missoni? Kitty Hannah? Missoni, that's it. The Italian fashion designing family, the empire, Missoni. It does look like Missoni. Hell yeah. I have a Missoni towel. I could go get it. You know what? No, I'm not gonna. But yes. It's very much like that. I can't look away from this quilt. I love it. I can't look away. I love it.
My personal, I think I struggle with modern quilting, like the really specific modern quilts.
Yeah.
Because they're too Spartan. Like a lot of times they're just, a lot of empty space. And I mean, I appreciate that, but my theory about quilting is more is better. So this is an example of more is better being done so well.
I mean, the modern quilters, like whoever's making quilts, like clearly they love fabric, but I maintain the scrap quilters, we really love fabric because we want all the fabrics in all of our quilts. It's like the more fabric, the better. The more pattern, the better. The more... I don't know. This quilt is like a friend. I don't want to... Okay. Well, it is no longer available because somebody bought it. And this one for $531. Crazy. The tumbling blocks doesn't do it for me as much. Okay, let's check this out. Okay? Here's what we're going to do. This is 3 minutes, and this is a video of... Now, I'm not into bugs. Mom, we're going to look at a thing about making silk. I don't love bugs, but there's silkworms involved in silk. Okay, so we got to look at it because it's just like... You remember when we looked at the chintz quilts, and I was like, what is chintz? Like, how do you make it? What is chintz? And one of the things coming up on the show in the next few weeks, I found a really good video of people making linen from flax, like harvesting flax and making, like seriously, Liz, like how do you make fabric out of a weed?
Yes, making linen is insane. I can't even imagine. I cannot imagine because it all started with linen, right?
Yeah, it did.
If I was responsible for making linen fabric, we'd all still be naked because there's like an 87-step process. You don't just rip it off the sheep and like spin it. You have to do like so many things.
You have to like soak it and beat it, and like somebody's gotta get sick and die. I mean, I don't even mean to make light of it, but I mean it's like, wow, I can't believe we're alive. Human beings are pretty amazing, like, because it's not good. Okay, so let's see what it's like to make some silk. Okay, so this is from Legend of Silk, which is a Japanese company. It's a 3-minute video, and they are going to show us the process of them making a silk quilt. That's the name of the video, silk quilt. Now, the term quilt gets used in different applications. I haven't watched all of this, pardon me, but from what I saw, it's really fascinating. Okay, let's check it out. Oh, China. So sorry, China. Dirt. Yeah. Yeah, China, right? Duh. Oh my god, sorry. Look at this. Look at that. Have you ever looked at how silk is made? Some of you have, but like I haven't. It's like, oh my god. Wow. So they like pulled it over. So, okay. that's all. It's all the silkworm's silk, right? I mean, there's no other material or other fiber there. I mean, that's pure silk. I mean, look, we could watch lots of videos about it, right? But like, to give us an idea, like this is the one I chose. But I mean, they were harvesting and boiling, I think, the pods, and then pulling and stretching them over that first thing, and then they, dry it, and then they're stretching it again. This is what I'm understanding. Very rudimentary. Now they're pulling it. I'll never look at silk the same way. What's in those quilts we just looked at. Like, that's what it is. Good for allergic people. We've made the effort for over 37 years. You can feel it. Wow, right? I mean...
Well, that was mind-blowing, because I think the only silk production I've ever seen was literally where they're, like, taking the cocoon and, like, I guess they boil it. Well, unfortunately, they boil it to kill the caterpillar, but then they also use the boiling water gets out, like, the caterpillar spit or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I just see them, and then they pull the strand. I've never seen them do that. Like, it's like a whole... They look like tissues, and then they just kept stretching them, and they're bigger and bigger. That's wild.
Isn't it wild? And that first thing when they took it out of the water and stretched it over what looked like a quilting hoop or an embroidery hoop. I mean, it was almost like they made like a bag out of it or something and stretched it over to then like dry it and stretch it more. Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense, I guess, if you picture the way, because, the way that the insect would make the cocoon, they kind of... Right. So I guess that's just pulling the fiber straight, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
Right?
That makes sense. That is a very good...
That is so interesting, yeah.
Fascinating, right?
Here's a related note. Has anybody ever used silk batting?
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I thought maybe I would go there next. No.
Did I read ahead?
No, it's perfect, because I've got a quick video on that from Hobbs Silk Batting, because I wanted to know about that. So let's check this out. Okay, now I'm going to skip forward a little bit. This is 4 minutes, but this is from Hobbs, a very well-known brand in the quilt world, and she's talking about silk batting from Hobbs. Now, hang on. I watched just enough of this to know that it starts right about here. Hang on.
The package. Now, this particular product, the Tuscany Silk, only comes in the Tuscany line. It's not available in our heirloom line. But we have many other products that are available on both lines, and they're essentially the same product, only the finishing is different. So the Tuscany Silk is made with very fine silk. The silk is actually produced by pieceworms. For those of you who are interested in the ethical treatment of animals, this is the ethical treatment of silkworms.
That's good.
And this is one of the few products that we don't source in the U.S. All the rest of our products are sourced in the U.S., and we produce all of our products in Waco, Texas. So the Tuscany Silk is 90% silk and 10% poly. This is a sample of it. You'll see that it's got a very, very thin loft. And to be frank, when you're looking at it in the raw form, doesn't look all that exciting. When I first joined Hobbs, everybody told me how great the silk was. And frankly, from just looking at the raw silk, I was not so excited.
I was like,
but as you'll see, if you see it inside of any kind of finished project, it is the most beautiful drape of any of the battings that we make. It is really a gorgeous drape for either a quilt or for clothing or
that's what Drink Wine and Sew. I saw you see that.
Want to drape very beautifully. If you're thinking about making a bedspread and you want to heavily quilt the edges, you want it to drape nicely over, this is a really great choice. This is also a great batting for hand quilting, for art quilts,
Really?
for table runners, placemats. The only
Cases.
thing you do need to be cautious about is that this requires a little bit more care when washing.
Huh.
So let's talk a little bit about that. This product is machine washable once it's inside the quilt. We do not recommend pre-washing any of our battings, especially the silk and our wool, because you could ruin that batting by pre-washing it. So with the silk, once you get it inside your quilt, you can throw your quilt in the washer on a delicate cycle with cool water and no heavy agitation or spin. So if you have a front loader that very heavily spins, you want to make sure you're putting it on the delicate cycle so that that doesn't happen. Once it's washed, you can toss it in a cool dryer, either delicate cycle or air fluff only, for about 5 or 10 minutes. But then this does need to be either blocked or hung to dry. You do not want to fully dry this in the dryer. Now this is also really wonderful for, again, for hand quilting, but also for clothing. So if you like to make quilted jackets, or perhaps you're going to make a long coat and you're going to put a lot of stitching in it, this would be a really good choice for that, because this silk, no matter how much you stitch it, will not get stiff. Even with a lot of cotton heavy.
No matter how much you stitch it, it will not get stiff. That is really interesting. I mean, I had never even heard of silk.
I bet I could find a thread
Yeah.
to put that to the test.
Exactly. Call us Chatelaine. Can make it.
Stitching, it's still going to be this soft. It just has the most beautiful drape of anything we make. So this would be a really great choice for that very, very special quilt, for a quilt that's maybe a gift for another quilter who knows how to take care of the quilt. We do not recommend this product be used in things like charity quilts or baby quilts. Again, because it's a little bit more delicate and it won't hold up to a lot of washing with warm water.
Right.
Okay?
No kids quilt.
It for the
Fascinating. So is it much more expensive? Is that a thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it depends on the silk content, but it is a little bit more expensive, but not to take business away from the house people, but I think Connecting Threads sometimes has it like way cheap. So I stock up.
Well, that's good. So you use it. I mean, I saw a couple other people in the chat. Mom, have you ever used silk batting? Life is too short to pre-wash batting. Tony, I feel you. Mom, have you ever used it? I feel like I would know that. I don't pre-wash batting. I pre-wash fabric. Oh, that's something we've never talked about. I'm doing a poll. I'm doing a poll on the fly, off the cuff. Are you a pre-washer? I'm doing it. I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it. New window. Give me. Oh, you know what? Okay.
Oh, Kenny says it's no more expensive than Tuscany wool.
Is that right? Interesting.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think they're about the same price.
Very interesting.
But I would say if you've ever made a quilt with lawn, like cotton lawn, such as Liberty Tana lawn, it is perfect.
Oh, interesting.
It's thin and light, and it just makes this like a gossamer sort of thing.
That makes sense that Tana lawn and silk batting would go together. Oh, it sounds so glamorous.
It's really nice.
Do you pre-wash your fabric? Yes. Hell no. I'm sorry. I gotta do it. Because people who don't pre-wash are like, are you kidding me? I would never do that. The poll has begun. Vote in the chat. And so now I've got 2 other things to show you tonight, and then we'll call it a night. But so I was looking for videos that showed quilt people making, sewing with silk, working with silk in their projects. Like I said, Alex Anderson, there's a couple of videos where she's talking about it, but again, I like giving some love to the smaller channels or just to people who don't get as clicked on, whatever, just because, like, I get it, right? Like, I'm all about it. So this is a 16-minute video. Obviously, we're not going to watch it all. This person made a beautiful, lovely video. There's no words. There's just music and her making her thing. She's using ties, and the silk tie quilt project is something that is very popular. I mean, a lot of people want to do it because they have their dad's ties or their grandpa's ties, or ties are cheap, at the resale, Salvation Army kind of deal. And so she's working with them. But I'm using it particularly because she is stabilizing the silk. And I think that that's important to talk about, right? Because when you're sewing with silk, like, I've never done it, but from what I know and from what I've looked at, even just in a cursory way, like you have to sew onto a foundation, or you have to sew using stabilizer, because you can't just be willy-nilly throwing pieces of silk together because it's so slippery or whatever. So let's take a look at what this person has to say about stabilizing. I'm gonna fast forward. I'm gonna show you this and then skip a little. So it's Eleanor Burchell Hughes. Like, subscribe, do all that. Oh, it's so artistic. Is she great? Look at her log cabin on the wall. I love it. So she's laying out all her ties. Okay. Okay, so she's pulling them out. So the next chapter is washing. She talks about washing them. Really carefully washing them, right? Wash using warm water and a light detergent. Hand washing, right? She's not messing with the machine. It's so calming. It's like ASMR. Kitty Hannah, do it. Do it. So Padma says you can sew silk without stabilizer or paper. I saw a silk quilt artist on Alex Anderson who sews silk just like regular fabric without any stabilizer. I mean, I'm sure that it can be done, right? Pressing and reshaping is key. Interesting. Okay, so she's washing. She's washing. Oh, look at her out in her garden. This is amazing. Oh, God. Can I just... She has morning glories, white morning glories. Right? She rewashed. She rewashed. Beautiful. Oh, God. I want to know her. You know what I mean? Like, I want to, like, be her friend. Okay. So now she goes into stabilizing. This is the next chapter. Stabilizing your ties. Always wear a mask when steaming fabrics. Interesting. And steam in a well-ventilated place, I think she said. Hey, J. Comb Jellies. So here's my question. Like, I was watching another video too, because I was like, what am I going to show? Here's the problem with silk quilt investigation, especially on YouTube and just the internet. I mean, if you start looking for silk quilt stuff, crazy quilts, you get a lot of crazy quilt information. And I was like, okay, so we need to talk about crazy quilts, you know, and like construction of crazy quilts and so forth. So we have to do that. We haven't ever done that because they're not my favorite, but it's fascinating, right? So we'll talk about that. But then you also have the cigar silk thing. So that's a thing. And then you also have like, I mean, this one woman who was doing a crazy quilt tutorial. It was like a 4-part tutorial on YouTube. It was super cool. But the way she wasn't using a pressing cloth. She had all these different kinds of fabrics. Silk, rayon, lace, like cotton, velvet, I mean, polyester, all kinds of different things. And she was just like pressing. She was just using her iron like willy-nilly on them. And I was like, okay, like what she was making turned out fine, you know, but here, when this person is using the iron, I haven't done a lot of ironing in my life other than what I had to do. I mean, I didn't know you could iron silk, okay? Can I be honest? Like, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, you have to be careful because, like, you know, and you're not supposed to use steam because you can water spot silk.
Right.
Like, so, I don't know, maybe ties, it's a different weave. I don't know.
Okay,
you know?
Okay, fair enough. Because I was like, what is this? Like, I guess I've been treating my fabrics too care. I mean, but I don't know. The idea that I would like iron a silk shirt. I have one, by the way.
Your mom says you have to use the silk setting on your iron.
So, well, that would make sense. Who said that? My mom? Oh, Lord. Mom, and you capitalized it. Use the silk setting. Lord have mercy. I can't wait to see you again. I miss you so much. Okay. All right, so she's sewing. Oh, sorry, she's gonna stabilize here. And I want to see it because that's what I thought you had to do, you know, no matter what when sewing with silk, but maybe not. I'm using a lightweight interfacing. That's a tough fabric to use. That big thing, I think. She's in the UK. Look at the plug-in. I mean, I think, did she mention that before? But I thought maybe she had like a British accent or something, and she does, I think. Yeah. Everyone's like, you can totally sew silk. San Diego, yeah, Mom's gonna be at AQSG. I don't know if I've mentioned that enough, but Mom's
Once you've stabilised your ties, you need to cut out 5-inch squares from the tie. I'm showing you how to use a rotary cutter. Usually I don't use a rotary cutter on silk because it leaves little bits in the cutting mat. It sort of holds onto it and it can fray the fabric. For some reason that didn't happen on this particular tie. I don't know if I was using a sharp blade in the rotary cutter, but the method I usually use is to cut out a 5-inch square template out of card, draw around them and cut out with scissors. They're never massively accurate anyway because obviously silk ties are made on the bias, so there's always a little bit of stretch and movement.
Interesting. Oh God, I love talk about ASMR. That scissor. A good sharp
Once you cut
scissor.
out your squares, have a look at how many you've got of each colour. You will get at least 2 from a tie, sometimes 3. These were wider, so they all had 3. And now I'm going to choose the placement of what the cushion front will look like, just roughly. This just
the cushion, that's what they call pillows.
From point
Making
to point.
your half square triangles. Okay, so then she goes on and makes her patchwork. Okay. So the last thing I want to show you, I mean, there's so many things to say about silk, but I don't know, everybody. I just try to get kind of a broad look at things. So we looked at silk batting, we looked at silk patchwork, we looked at how silk was made. I mean, I'm going to show you too on the flip side, after a silk quilt has been made, you know, what happens to that fabric? I mean, what happens to the fibers, you know, because we looked at those quilts earlier that had flakiness, you know, and like they crumble. A lot of crazy quilts you see just sort of disintegrate when you touch them, a lot of times because of the silk. So this is a brief video, 4 minutes, from the Museum of Texas Tech University, Clothing and Textile Division. They did spell division wrong. That makes me feel better about typos that I make. It's a log cabin silk quilt, and they're going to talk about preserving it. And I think this is like a good way to, if we're going to talk about silk and quilts, like how much can we say on one episode? Well, we can look at these different aspects of it and just have a sense of silk and quilts, at least to start, right? So here's where we're gonna wrap up today. Hang on. Okay. Here we go. Great. Oh, wait. I gotta see, what are the poll? What's the poll? Do people pre-wash?
Recording stopped.
They're recording. Hell no. Oh my God. 74% of people say hell no. They do not pre-wash their fabric. Wow.
Nobody ever said that the quilt nerds followed rules.
I forgot to vote, but I actually am a pre-washer. I wasn't always, but I am now. I am. It's crazy.
You know what a couple of people mentioned, and I think this is true, that they started sewing by making clothing. And so, like, I make clothing as well. And, like, you never want to forget to pre-wash if you make clothing, like, out of cotton.
Right.
Because even the tiniest bit of shrinkage will just, like, make your garment unwearable. But yeah, some people I like that crinkle in quilts that is caused by that kind of uneven little tiny bit of shrinkage.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people don't like that, so.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay, good. We got to talk more about that at some point. That's interesting. Most people I know don't do it, but my mom doesn't do it. Okay, so let's take a look at this.
Hello, we wanted to speak to you about this quilt. Since everyone in this room is 100% vaccinated, we're going to talk to you without our masks, because when we tried it before with the masks, you couldn't hear us.
How strange.
And we're also trying this in a socially distanced environment. I'm Marianne A. Montgomery, the curator of clothing and textiles here at the Museum of Texas Tech, where we have 34,000, actually more than that, objects, the largest collection of clothing and textiles at the university in our country. And I wanted to show you this particular quilt, which has come into us recently. It is a silk quilt. It's done in the log cabin pattern, and you'll get to see some of the wonderful piecing in the log cabin where they start with the center and then work out. I love the colors on this. But unfortunately, it was made with fabric at a time when silk was very precious, and the manufacturers were taking cheap silk and weighting it with salts so that they could sell it as more expensive silk because the demand was so high.
Sorry, weighting it with salts?
Sell it fabric at a time.
I think when salts would be like the part of the finish and the dyeing process. Salts are something that would make it like heavier. It would leave like a finish that would make it feel heavier. Yeah.
Interesting.
Silk was very precious, and the manufacturers were taking cheap silk and weighting it with salts so that they could sell it as more expensive silk because the demand was so high. So across the country, there are many people who have examples of weighted silk in their collections. And that's why we're going to talk about this, as well as the fact that we have a student who's doing a little work on it. Now, when you get to look at weighted silk, you'll see that it has sort of a shredded wheat look to it, and we'll do a close-up of that in a few minutes for you. And there's nothing you can do about the weighted silk. Once it turns into shredded wheat, all you can really do is do something to cover it. And so we have been covering it, and you might look at this netting and go, well, why in the world are she using such a dark colored netting? Well, we found when we used a light colored netting and you put it down over it that it just faded everything out.
Wow. Oh, how
when we
interesting.
used a dark color, it just went down into the fabric, and your eye really didn't see it. And so that's what we're doing.
Wow. How about that? That's so interesting. That's so interesting that the light colored netting washed it out, but the dark colored netting didn't. Whoa.
Rachel Chauvin's going to tell you a little bit about what she's done on this quilt.
I've been overlaying the most damaged sections with the silk mesh and then tacking them in place through the back of the quilt, because we're not going to worry about the back, it's never going to be displayed. And pulling it taut over it and sewing it in place.
Look how she looked at her like professor, basically. Listen, when she's like, because the back will never be displayed, she's like,
place through the back of the quilt, because we're not going to worry about the back, it's never going to be displayed. And pulling it taut over it and sewing it in place along the edge to keep all of the pieces inside where they're supposed to be.
And so everything will still be here, it'll just be covered. You'll notice that Rachel's not wearing gloves, and you might say, oh my goodness, what is she doing? Why is she touching an object without gloves on? We never touch objects without gloves if we can avoid it here. You've all seen how your cell phone looks after you've had something to eat. You've touched the screen, you have to clean it. Rachel has been working on also some 1950s gowns that she's been rebeading, and she washes her hands thoroughly. And we have found that in working on an object, when you're actually stitching on it, gloves get in the way. And so it's much better for the object if you don't use the gloves.
And we talked about that recently too, that when you're handling really delicate stuff, and I mean, she's the textile expert, okay, not me, but like when you're handling this really super fragile stuff, that the gloves can actually get in the way of you, like in a tactile way, understanding how to handle the thing, because you have less you know, you're covered with a glove. So, I mean, what I thought she was going to say is like, you know, to handle this delicate material, it's actually better. I don't know, but she's good, by the way. This woman in the yellow, she's good on camera. I think she's doing a great job. Okay.
When you're actually handling it and stitching. So there's a really good excuse if you want to handle these gorgeous objects and
Earth Girl now.
Be able to do it without gloves. You can come and be a volunteer if you want, or a graduate student, of course. This particular quilt was made by Abby Stone Stafford, and she made it in the 1930s, but the fabrics do date from the end of the 19th century.
Wow.
And she acquired the fabrics from her daughter's mother-in-law. Her daughter married into a family that had a little more means, and her mother-in-law was Clara Brown Kent. And Clara had dressmakers, she had scraps from her dressmaker that she gave to her daughter-in-law's mother, Abby Stone Stafford, who made this quilt, as well as another small children's quilt that we have in the same log cabin pattern. But this is a really smashing quilt.
It is smashing. That color scheme I've seen it a lot. Like, that was trendy. I've seen this quilt, I swear. I mean, ones like it. Yeah, that yellow, bright yellow, light blue, black, mauve. I could show you a million examples.
It's one of, I love the blues in it. I love the way the colors were used. And I can imagine how lovely it looked on the bed at the time. Thanks for tuning in.
Great. It's great. Can I just tell you that, like, look at what we got from this video. 4 minutes. Look, we were in the collections room. This was this cool, like, short, quick, from a museum. Like, any museum who's like thinking like, we should do YouTube videos, please do it, because this rules. Like, that was so cool, you know, like, just good job, you know. I just think everybody should be doing that kind of stuff. It's so great. All right, everybody. I mean, you know, we could do, there's people who've done theses on yeah, Raffle, that's what I'm saying. We could do, you know, yeah, a whole semester on silk and quilts and textiles and crazy quilts and cigar ribbon quilts and all that kind of stuff. But we're at time. We've gone over our usual show schedule, whatever duration. Sorry, I'm getting tired. I think that's my cue to take off. But yeah, we do this every Tuesday night, every Saturday night, and every other week on Friday morning. We have coming up this weekend this Sunday social. We have done Quilt Nerd on Parade shows before. Actually, we do it pretty regularly, like every quarter we do one of those shows. But we're kind of playing around with different things, and this weekend the Sunday social for tier 2 and tier 3 subscribers is a show and tell. So on Sunday at 11 a.m. The tier 2 and tier 3 subscribers to Quilt Nerd, who really, like, all the subscribers, and the tier 2 and tier 3ers, like, God bless you. Y'all really make the show possible. And so it's a show and tell on Sunday at 11 a.m. Central. It's a special VIP show and tell. And so we're going to do that this Sunday. If you want to be a part of that, you still can be. It's September on Twitch, so you can subscribe at any tier level and you get your subscription on sale. And the longer you subscribe, the more you save. So if you're like, I'm going to try doing the tier 2 thing, like, let me like go to these special streams, and like at AQSG, we're going to do a special stream for tier 2 and 3. Just really making those benefits really good. Like, really, you know, like, I want to do that. I want to support Quilt Nerd in this particular way because, like, we get this different stuff, and I support Mary, and I support the show, whatever. And so yeah, so there's still time if you want to subscribe, upgrade your subscription or subscribe at tier 1 or tier 3, or sorry, tier 2 or tier 3. You can do that Friday at midnight. Friday at midnight, we got to cut it off in terms of like how to, I mean, if you want to be part of the show and tell and get in on that on Sunday. It's a good crowd. It's good. I mean, it's not like a huge crowd, but it's like, it'll be a great show and tell is what I'm trying to say. So if you want to subscribe, or if you are a tier 2 or tier 3 subscriber, send us an email. So subscribe. And then if you are a tier 2 or tier 3 subscriber, send us an email letting us know that you did that you signed up for tier 2 or tier 3, quiltnerdshow@gmail.com. We're working on this newsletter, which is a way to, you know, communicate with all our subscribers with like the calendar and like what's coming up and all that stuff. It's one thing at a time around here. We yeah, we're working on it. But for now, like, to make sure we get you into the special event, quiltnerdshow@gmail.com. Do the tier 2 or tier 3 subscription. Send us an email. Let us know that you did that, and you'll be sure to be on that that email with a special link for Sunday. So Saturday night show, it's going to be great. Sunday social show and tell is going to be great. And yeah, I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot to do and a lot to see on the show. And I hope you tune in again. Saturday night, I don't even know what to tell you. There's so much stuff. There's always so much stuff. And we'll catch up then, and we'll look at more things together on Quilt Nerds. Stephanie Cake, thank you so much. Thank you.
It is a pleasure, as always.
It is a pleasure. Okay, everybody take care and be safe, and we will see you soon. Okay.